What's up, everybody? So today we got our chromatic scale. I call this the beast, the chromatic scale in the Altissimo register. So there are a lot of ways that I approach playing this scale when I'm in the Altissimo register. So let's get started. So let's say we're going up to our Altissimo G. How do I do that? Well, pretty much the same way you would expect with the palm keys. Once I get to the E flat, I generally use the palm E flat for that. I'm gonna start on G and play it one octave. So we got, sorry, I'll start on the higher octave. Once I get to that palm E, I can usually either go to front E, and if you've noticed from my videos, I rarely ever use front E for anything. It's just kind of a goofy timbre. I just don't really use it that much. But in this case, you can definitely use it. So you go from palm E flat to front E, just front 2 and 3, to front F, and then from there, let me lower this down a little bit. And then from front F, add high F sharp key in order to play F sharp, and then lift the 2 key in order to play G. Notice that I'm keeping the high F sharp key down because it gives this front G some stability. So it sounds like this. Right? And then back down. Right? Simple enough. All right, so we're on our Altissimo G as a starting note, and this is generally where things start to get complicated. Not difficult, not hard, just a little complex with the fingering system that I use. So before we move on, I want to definitely show you this alternate fingering that I have for G. And I talked about this one a little bit in my G blues scale, but this is exactly like middle F. All you do is add the side C key in order to play Altissimo G. I should actually say it's exactly like Altissimo G sharp, which is 1, 2, 3 and side C, but all you do is add the 4 key. Since we're going back and forth between G and G sharp, all you're really doing is just moving the 4 key up and down. With this note, you gotta be really careful because a multiphonic wants to creep out, and also that G wants to be really sharp. So you just got to be careful with your embouchure and your intonation, your airspeed, and make sure that that note doesn't fly off the handle. It sounds like this. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, side C. Right? Pretty simple stuff. All right, so once we get to the G sharp, we're just doing 1, 2, 3 and side C. And then from there, I want to show you another note that I haven't shown you in any of my videos. This is the only time I ever use this fingering for this note. It is an alternate fingering for Altissimo A. Now, before I showed you 3, which plays A, I showed you the vented G sharp, which is exactly like G sharp, with the first finger up in order to play A. And then I showed you the vented D fingering, which is exactly like middle D with the first finger up in order to play A. All right, so this fingering for A is exactly like open C sharp. So you can go from that G sharp to A by doing 1, 2, 3 and side C to open. And you can even hold this side C down. Sounds like this. Let me show you this, holding the side C down. All right, so your palm keys overblow in this really kind of slick 6th way. So palm D overblows to a B flat, your palm E flat to a B, your palm E natural overblows to the C. All right, your palm F to the C sharp, and then your palm F sharp to the D. So if I just play the palm keys the regular way, up to F sharp, we get this. Overblow it. Right, that's like one of the slickest, easiest things that you can do. Right, so keep that in mind. If we go from our G sharp, 1, 2, 3 and side C, and then open in order to play A, and then we can just run it up from palm D to the palm F sharp with the high F sharp key fingering in order to get up to that D. So we got this kind of piece of cake, man. All right, so now we've come to controversial bit number 2, and that is the fingering that I use to play Altissimo D is exactly like palm F sharp. That's palm F with the high F sharp key, overblows to the D. Now, here's where things start to get a little weird and overlappy. It's when I start on an E natural that is above it. So for E natural, the fingering that I use is exactly like 4. All right, now the actual fingering for this note is the bis key, but it's freakishly impractical to just play the bis key by itself like this. So you can use either 4, 5, or 6, or some kind of goofy combination in the right hand in order to play that note. So in this case, I definitely use 4 when I'm playing Altissimo E and I'm going down, or if I'm going up. So if I'm going down, I'm gonna go from 4 in order to play E, and then I'm gonna go to the palm F sharp in order to play E flat. So you just gotta have it. I'm so used to doing it like this, I just have it dialed in. So you got this kind of thing like this. It's just E down to C. All I do is play 4 for E, and then I palm key my way down to the E flat fingering in order to play C, which I just told you was the B natural fingering. So that's the overlap that I do. But every time I play that lick, right, that's what I do for that. I want to throw in this diminished thing, and then I'll mix it up with the Altissimo thing, and it sounds like this. Before we go on any further, I just want to show you this kind of like slide whistle effect that you can use in order to play a chromatic scale, even though it's really not like a chromatic scale. But if you imagine like a trombone player up really high and he's just kind of like goofing around with his slide, or somebody has like a slide whistle, doesn't have any holes punched into it, and you get that really kind of woo type of effect. I want to show you something real quick with this G fingering. Now, I talked about this G being the most difficult G fingering you can use in order to play Altissimo that's actually practical, which is 1. Using 1 in order to play G, it's very, very difficult, and it also is difficult to a point of impractical. However, you can kind of cheat it by adding this high F sharp key. So basically what I'm just going to do is I'm going to fool around with my embouchure a little bit, and I'm gonna kick it with this high F sharp key, and I'm just gonna slide whistle my way around the palm keys in order to get this really like slide chromatic effect. Right, all I'm doing is just kind of playing around, starting on that G with 1 and the high F sharp key. Now you can do it and play a legitimate G with 1 and high F sharp key. That's the one that I use all the time. Or you can just start it with 1 and just kind of fool around the horn. So for the Altissimo E flat, this is where the trains collide, because it's really easy to not have that note dialed in. So let's start on that note, and I'll work my way down and back up, because usually in a chromatic situation, I'm gonna play the Altissimo E flat with all open, right? And then that'll allow me to be able to maneuver around the palm keys in order to do chromatic lines. And plus, since I'm in an open position, that puts me in a really good position to go pretty much anywhere. So let's start with our Altissimo E flat, and I'll do this kind of thing. So that's just an E flat, D, D flat, C, B natural type of chromatic thing. So all I'm really doing with that is just going from open C sharp, and then I'm just going down the palm keys to the E flat fingering, which lands on B, being careful to make sure that that pitch doesn't ride up too high. And then from there, let's say I want to go up, I'm already on an open position, so if I want to go from the E flat or D sharp to E, then I can just go from open to 4. So if we play our E major scale, right, we can just go back and forth. All right, so E chromatically upwards to Altissimo, to double Altissimo D. So we got 4 in order to play E. Then for F, all we do is add 1 and 3. So we're playing our split F. Split meaning 2 finger up from the fingering. So we got split F. So we got 1, 3, and 4 in order to play F. And then for F sharp, I use the part of my hand that I use to play palm D. I add the E flat key to the split F fingering. So I got split F, and then I just add the E flat key for F sharp. And then G, just 2 and 3. G sharp, 3. A is just like 1. B flat, we go back to vintage G sharp, which is exactly like G sharp with the first finger up in order to play B flat. And then for B natural, it's the E flat key. You can even have 2 finger down for that if you want. For C, I use the front key, C sharp. I add the high F sharp key, and then for D, boom, back to vintage G or 2 and 3. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen.